Southern Ohio Farm Show. This is Gigi Neal of OSU Extension in Claremont County, agricultural and natural resources educator.
I'm James Morris, the Agricultural and Natural Resources and Community Development Educator for the Ohio State University Extension in Brown County.
And I'm Brooke Beam, the Ohio State University Extension Educator for Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Community Development in Highland County. And we will be your hosts for the Southern Ohio Farm Show.
Hi, my name is Will Hamman. I'm the Agriculture and Natural Resource Educator for OSU Extension in Pike County. Today we're going to be talking about biosecurity and livestock production. So when we're thinking about biosecurity, it's very simply not transmitting diseases from one livestock facility to another. And so livestock, like humans, have normal biota that they are digesting continuously, that they do not have any issues with. But transferring one animal to another facility may introduce a new biota to those livestock that they may not handle it as well. So we want to just kind of limit that spread of bacteria and any infection or diseases that could create issues in other facilities. So right now we're entering a time of the year where many 4-Hers may be getting livestock projects, going on farms that they haven't been to before or haven't been to recently. And so we're going to take a few precautions when we're doing that. So when you're entering a new facility or any sort of livestock production facility, it's always good to ask the owner, should I be wearing protective material? Should I have cover on my boots? Should I be using disinfectants to clean any diseases or dirt or bacteria off of my current footwear? Or is my trailer clean and stuff like that? So a lot of considerations to take in, but it's very just simple to ask the producer, hey, what precautions do I need to take? Some facilities may have livestock in a separate area of their farm. So they may take in the animals that are for sale away from their commercial production operation or their other production facilities. That way there's no transmission of any disease or bacteria between those pens. So you're entering a facility that's maybe been sterilized and the animals have been to separately, so they are there for purchase, and then the livestock producer doesn't have to worry about any introductions into their facility.
As I mentioned earlier, these are some of the examples of ways you can protect the farm and yourself from any sort of diseases or pathogens from being spread. In the lower left-hand side, you can see a picture of boots being covered by another plastic boot. Those are very commonly available, like at your local Tractor Supply or ag retailer. In the picture in the middle, you can see a boot bath, and this is just going to be a little rubber mat filled with disinfectant. You can step on that a few times, kind of get the suds up and around your shoe soles. And as you're tracking through the facility, you're protected because you use disinfectant to kill any bacteria on your boots. The jug on the right-hand side is a chlorhexidine solution, and that's a very common solution you can get at your local ag retailer or vet's office as well. And this is going to be a solution you can spray around the facility and wash down things and kind of disinfect that area where you may be bringing animals to or from. And then finally at the top, I just have an example of a sign that many farms may be placing around the area where visitors are coming, just to remind them that biosecurity is a concern, and you need to make sure you have approval before entering the area or have a directed path of where to walk or stay to prevent any spread of diseases from farm to farm or from animals to humans.
So when you're preparing to enter a farm to buy some livestock, there's a few precautions you want to think about. So I'm standing here in a livestock trailer you may be transporting your animals with, and a few things you want to do. So as you can see, this is a dirty trailer. It's had straw in it, manure from other animals we may have hauled in the past. So when we're going to go get these animals that we've never had in our operation before, we want to make sure you want to clean all this out. You want to take all the straw out, all the manure, clean all that up. That way we're not transmitting any of our material or manure or any sort of bacteria to this operation we're going to. So you want to clean all this out, use some soap, some disinfectant, clean it up, scrub it out, use some water, get it nice and clean. So that way this is a clean facility for these animals you're going to introduce to. Just thinking about the animal's health that you're going to be bringing home, it's always a good idea to maybe quarantine that animal. I know it's a term we're very common with right now, dealing with COVID-19. But before we introduce any animals that we're buying to animals we already have at home, you want to give them kind of a grace period. So you're looking at maybe 7 to 10 days where you're keeping the animal separate from the other animals that you have at home. That way it gives them time to adjust. They acclimate to the new environment, deal with the stress of being transported from one facility to another, and just kind of get used to the bacteria that may be there already. So you kind of give them time just to kind of get broken in and get used to the new facility they're going to be living in. It's always a good idea to keep the materials clean at home, so clean out the pens regularly, use any disinfectants, soaps, spray things down. Just kind of keep it as clean as possible for your operation when you're raising livestock. All right, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Farm Show. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to your local extension educator We're happy to help you any way we can.
Hello, this is Chris Bruynis. Welcome back to the Southern Ohio Farm Show for Farm Bill Decision Part 2. This week I want to talk more about the actual decision and not so much about the different programs. So to make the decision, we have to make some assumptions. One of those assumptions is, what will the market year average price be for 2021 crop? Remember, this starts September 1st, 2021 and runs through the end of August 2022. So it's not what's going to happen during the growing season, it's what's going to happen at the harvest period to the next harvest period. Well, looking at some information that Ben Brown put together for us, he wanted to look at what is the probability of price falling below the 370 reference price for corn on this slide. And we look at that and we look at this probability. We're somewhere about 35% that it'll fall below that based on what we know today. And then we look at what is that average expected to be. Again, 50%, 397 is what they say. You know, putting all the odds together, all the probabilities together, we're looking at 397 is what we think that market price will be for the next year, which is above. Now, could we be wrong? Absolutely. So again, but we have to make an assumption of what we think that price will be, because that will help us then decide what program is best for us. And let's look at soybeans real quick. It even has a lower probability that we're going to fall below that 840 price. And so again, 1019 is the average price that they're predicting at this time based on the information we had when this was put together. So there's a 15% chance that it's going to fall below the 840, which isn't very great probability. And so we're going to use this information in just a minute. I'm going to show you what he's done with it. And so he said, if we could use the prior year's market year average to influence commodity program elections. And so they went back and they looked and they said, okay, what is the distribution over time where the ratio of prior year's market year average and the commodity's effective average price? And so the percentages, and this will become more clear in the next slide, but again, we have a pretty good distribution over time during the commodities. They looked at a whole host of commodities. And again, we talked about this stuff on the gray side here in terms of the difference between the programs. We'll save that for another conversation here. So we went back and we looked at historical averages. Again, if we were 80% or less, did we trigger an Ark County payment? The answer was yes, 100% of the time. Did we trigger a PLC payment? Yes, 100% of the time. But then if we come up where our difference is greater, again, Ark County tends to continue to pay more than PLC. So where are we this year? What those payments look like? Again, even though both were 100%, the payments were vastly different. And then as we come down, payments get smaller as we move across the bar. So what does this tell us? This is the next slide I really wanted to get to, because he divided it into three segments. And now we look at this slide and where they are today based on historical averages and categorizing them into those three categories. And we have 12 commodities, including wheat and barley, that have a ratio greater than 5% below. And this signals a high chance of triggering a payment and a relatively large PLC payment. And so when we look at wheat, we're right over here, 85%. And so with this assumption, it says wheat should go PLC. When we look at the light blue bars here in the middle, we have 7 commodities, including corn, that are within that range. And it basically says, we don't know. His thought was it might be an opportunity to diversify, take those farms with high corn base yields, put those in PLC, put the rest of them in Ark County. Again, we'll talk about SCO here in a minute. It might make a difference if we want to use supplemental crop insurance option. That's only available with PLC. And then we look at soybeans up here in the purple bars. And again, 4 commodities, including soybeans, signal that PLC is highly unlikely. We already looked at that with the probabilities, where 840 was less than 15% probability that we would fall below 840 with our soybean price. And then Ark County has a greater chance of triggering, even though I agree with that, that greater chance really isn't all that great. And I'm going to use my own farm. This is my farm in Claremont County that my brother and sister and I own. And again, when we look at our base acres, we have all of our actual acres have base on them. My father did a good job of double cropping beans and had a history of that. And we were able to incorporate that into our base acres over time. And so we have normalized here to 100 acres, 10 acres of wheat base, 50 acres of soybean base, and 40 acres of corn base. Here are the base yields on our farm: 64 for wheat, 44 for soybeans, 151 for corn. We look at that PLC reference price, that price we have to fall below in order for PLC to make a payment. And then we look at that Ark County guarantee revenue, and that's the revenue we need to fall below to get a payment under the Ark County payment. And then of course that Ark County payment is limited to 10% of the revenue guarantee. And so the max payment is listed right here: 3068, 4036, and 6280. And then I used the University of Illinois forecast. Right now they're saying they're forecasting 480 for wheat. I know currently it's trending above that, but again, we got to remember what the market year average price is based on. $10 on beans, we had 10.19 in the earlier example. $4 corn, we had 3.97 in the earlier example. And so these are all close and all relative, but you need to plug your own numbers into this for that forecast price, because that can make a huge difference. And so I wanted to just look at each of those three commodities. Let's look at corn under PLC. We know that anything above 370, there is no payment. It's independent of yield. I've got yield across the top there. And again, as yield declines, has no effect on that payment. Only as price declines is that affected. Now with PLC, unlike Ark County, there are no payment limitations. And so if we would get down to $3 corn, I could see some pretty significant payments on this farm. But again, what is the probability? We only said there's a 37% probability that's going to go below 370. And so again, what is your best guess estimate? But let's compare that to Ark County then for corn. Same farm, same assumptions. Again, as long as we have good yields, I've had 200 bushel corn average on this farm for the last several years. And so when we look at those good yields, we look at good prices. Even if we have some poor prices, we're not going to get anything. Now, if we start getting into some lower yields, let's say, and again, these are county average yields. This isn't my farm yield because this is Ark County. So we look at this county average yield. If for some reason Claremont County would fall below 150, even if we were at that $4 corn, there could be a significant Ark County corn payment. But again, what is the probability of that happening is not very high. And again, have we already insured this risk with crop insurance? Again, that's a question I'll come back to clear right here at the end. Soybeans PLC, again, we look at the range of prices. Right now, we were guesstimating somewhere in this 990 to 1020 range. Again, nothing. We have to fall below this 840. Again, 839 it'll start, but I just used increments here to display this. And again, yield is independent. 60 bushel yield is what we're estimating on this farm. And that's the county average for soybeans. Now we look at Ark County for soybeans. And again, under decent yields, and again, the yields have to fall off quite a bit, prices have to fall off quite a bit before Ark County makes a payment. Again, is that something that we're concerned about? Capped at that $40 an acre. Are we going to get down into the money here, into this green area? We have to have a 50% yield loss at current prices. And again, this is countywide. And if that's more widespread than just Claremont County, let's say it's across Ohio, across the Corn Belt, we have a drought. Prices are not going to go down. Prices will go up as a result of that, more than likely. And so again, are we going to get into the money with Ark County soybeans? That is the $64,000 question. Let's look at wheat real quick. Again, 540. We looked at the estimate was 450. Again, there could be some significant wheat payments if those prices weaken during that crop year, that market year average price year. It doesn't matter what you actually sell them for. It matters what that market average year price. And again, county yields. I started here with 100 bushel. Our farm doesn't quite have that. We're more like in the 80 bushel, but it really doesn't matter for PLC what the farm yield is. But now when we compare that to Ark County, again, it's very similar to soybeans. It's way over here, highly unlikely that we're going to get down into here. We have to have somewhat of a crop failure, and we have to have somewhat of a price reduction. And again, when we get down in here, let's say we get to 480, even at 60 bushel wheat, there is a payment. But if we go at 480, that payment is a little bit larger, 3880, compared to 30, oh, where was I? 60, 480, 2060. So PLC probably is the better option for wheat. And so what I really wanted to come back to is when we take PLC, whether that be for wheat, soybeans, corn, we're also eligible then for the supplemental crop insurance option, and that can get us up to 86%. And let's say, for instance, I've talked to several of my farmers, they've been buying revenue protection up to 75%. They feel it gets too pricey above that. Well, the supplemental crop insurance option can get you to 86% coverage. That last 11%, if we're going to 75, it costs relatively a little bit. Again, let's say 75% is $9. This is probably another $9 to get you 86%, and so $18 an acre. And again, I haven't seen this year's prices. They're probably up from last year. That was using last year's prices. But what that does is that last 11% is a county average yield product. It's not revenue protection on your farm, your yield. And so you could have a great yield. If the county has a lousy yield, you could get a payment, and vice versa. If you have a lousy yield and the county has a great yield, you won't get a payment, but then at 75% revenue loss or 25% revenue loss, you'll start getting it on your revenue protection product. So again, talk to your crop insurance agent, see if that makes sense. And again, the savings in insurance premiums going from 75 to 86% might lean you into PLC for all of your crops, and then use the supplemental crop insurance to buy up. And that'll protect you somewhat like Ark County does, except this protection for the supplemental crop insurance option is from now through harvest price protection and yield revenue protection, where the other is from harvest till the next harvest. So you decide where you need protection. If you have questions, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to anybody individually. Again, this is Chris Bruynis with your Southern Ohio Farm Show Farm Bill Update.
Hello, this is Ross Meeker with OSU Extension Ross County. Today, I would like to invite you to ride along as we make an elevator run. For the past couple months, our county roads have been busy with harvest activity. So today, I thought I'd share what it's all about. This was about a 3-hour process, and we're going to cover it in just a little over 9 minutes. So hold on as we take a load of grain to town. Today, we're making a fairly short run to town. All in all, the round trip will be just about 20 miles. Most of our road time today will be viewing at 10 times the normal speed. Trucking is a very interesting thing, and thank goodness for our purposes here today, no one will have to listen to me shift. And here we are. Trucks line up according to what they're hauling and are then advanced as efficiently as possible to unload into these bins. Today, there's a lot of activity at the elevator as they are accepting both yellow corn and soybeans. As we'll see in a minute, they're also loading out a train. Here's just another shot of the line as we get ready to move forward. The trucks on the right-hand side are hauling soybeans, and the trucks on the left-hand side are hauling corn. They advance us in groups so that they can minimize the amount of times they have to clean out the conveyors that unload us. As we wait our turn, watch the traffic as it first flows to the probe where grain is sampled for moisture and quality before it is mixed into the facility, and then move forward to the inbound scale uh, to determine the truck's weight. If you watch, you can see some train traffic in the background as they're shunting cars in place to be filled. With some TV magic, we'll shortly get our green arrow and move forward to the probe. Here we're moving a little fast forwarded, but this is almost close to normal pace. We'll watch as the first truck is probed. Here they use a vacuum to pull a small portion of grain from throughout the load of the truck, so they ensure a uniform sample for testing both moisture, contaminants, broken and foreign material, all which go into determining the quality and value of the grain before it is blended into the facility. This facility uses a system of ID cards that are mounted into the truck to provide a contactless process. In a minute, as we pull forward, you'll note the blue light as the scanners read my truck. This, along with several notification displays and laser sensors, ensure that trucks are properly aligned and in order throughout the process. Trucks are scanned at both the scales, probe, and dumps so that everything stays in order. Once our sample is taken, your cameraman will miss the green light and will move forward to the inbound scales. Here, you'll notice two uh, posts with green little boxes on them. These are the laser sensors I mentioned that make sure that we're aligned properly. And we'll pull onto the scale and await our assignment to tell us what dump pit we will be using today. In the background, you'll see some more train activity. The gentleman walking the ground actually has a remote control strapped around him that he's using to help move things along. And we'll pull forward and we'll get a good view of the loading system that here you'll see the cars being pushed into place where they'll outload corn from that has been dried at this facility to be shipped all around the world. We'll have some boring waiting in line for just a second, and we'll cut forward. Here we can see both the newer side of the facility with these large steel bins, as well as the original concrete silos. Here we can see both dump pits that between the sets of bins that the trucks are lining up for. In a second, you'll see a group of bean trucks be dismissed and utilize the pit to our right, and we'll continue to wait our turn here. Most trucks today have two compartments, a front and a back, and here we'll watch this gentleman await the go-ahead from the operator. and then dump first the front portion of his truck, and then pull forward and dump the rear. You'll note his suspension rises as the load leaves his vehicle. Then he'll work his way to the outbound scale, and then it'll be our turn. Here, I will pull over the pit and line up. Again, awaiting for the go-ahead from the dump operator. And then I'll go ahead and I'll crank open the doors on my front hopper. Takes just a second for it to unload. This is the slower pit. The other pit on the opposite side is a little faster. We can unload both hoppers at the same time. I'll pull forward and repeat with the back hopper. And then we'll be ready to head towards the outbound scale. Here, trucks are weighed again. This determines our net load. This is used to calculate the amount of bushels that have been delivered and determines what farmers are paid for their delivery. And that's how things work at the elevator. This is pretty consistent with most elevators in Southern Ohio. Some have a little different processes, but it's all fairly similar. I want to thank you guys for riding along today, and please look out for more Day on the Farm videos and cab ride-alongs as we move forward.